Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Okay, we continue topic 4 on the theory of individual behavior. Okay, so this will be our outline for chapter for part 2, right? Last time we have looked into the concept of consumer behavior, and we have looked into the constraints and how or what happened to the budget line when income or prices changes. Okay, so in part 2 we are going to look at the consumer equilibrium and also comparative statistics. Okay, so we look at consumer equilibrium first. Okay, let me go to the pointer options. All right. Okay, so consumer equilibrium, okay, is actually when we combine, all right, the indifference curve and budget line together. Okay, similar like when we talk about market equilibrium, okay, we put the supply and demand in one graph, right? So we look at the interaction between demand and supply, and the point is what we call as market equilibrium. Okay, so consumer equilibrium is when we combine that indifference curve and also budget line together, so okay, it become a point that shows the consumption bundle that is affordable and yields greatest satisfaction to the consumer. Okay, because affordability is referring to the budget line, satisfaction is shown by the indifference curve. Okay, so this equilibrium point, okay, is also a point where the rate of consumer choice, okay, to trade between X and Y equal the rate at which these goods are traded in the market. Okay, so in other words, right, this is a point where marginal rate of substitution equal to the market rate of substitution. Okay, negative Px over Py. Okay, that we have looked in part 1. Yeah. So if you look into this diagram, right, this is a point where indifference curve and budget line interact, right, intersect. Yeah, this is our indifference curve and this is budget line. But is this the consumer equilibrium point? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Right, if we draw another indifference curve here, okay, we have bundle B. Okay, so bundle B also is a point where indifference curve and budget line intersect. Yeah, but the question here is it the equilibrium point? Yeah, because the equilibrium point is a point where MRS and market rate of substitution should be equal. Okay, so if I draw another what do you call it, intersection, yeah, between indifference curve and budget line at point C, right? So this is where, if you see, right, the indifference curve here is tangent to the budget line. Yeah, so if you compare between these 3 points A, B, C, yeah, if you notice, A, B, C lies on the same budget line. Okay, so all these 3 points are affordable by the consumers. Okay, because it's still on the budget line. Okay, we have learned about budget line where if it is on the budget line, meaning that you exhaust all the income, but you still can afford to purchase that combination of goods. But if you look into the indifference curve, okay, you should notice that A lies on indifference curve 1, B lies on indifference curve 2, and C lies on indifference curve 3. Right? So meaning, if we want to talk about satisfaction, okay, we have learned about indifference curve. Okay, the higher or the farther the indifference curve from the origin, okay, whatever bundle lies on that indifference curve will yield the highest level of satisfaction. Okay, so between A, B, C, C lies on higher indifference curve, which is indifference curve 3. So in terms of satisfaction, okay, C gives more satisfaction than bundle B. Bundle B gives more satisfaction than bundle A. And if we go to the definition of a consumer equilibrium just now, okay, we have to choose a point where not only the point is affordable, but the point also give the consumers the highest level of satisfaction. Okay, so in other words, okay, C is the consumer equilibrium point. Yeah, so if you look at this point as well, okay, where I see tangent with the budget line, this is the point where, okay, the slope of indifference curve is equal to the slope of budget line. Yeah, all right, so please don't confuse with the market equilibrium, because market equilibrium, okay, if you look into the y-axis, okay, market equilibrium is price, yeah, and then this one is quantity, right? But for consumer equilibrium, this is quantity, this is also quantity, but this is quantity of good X, good Y, this is quantity of good X. Yeah, so this is where sometimes students confuse between market equilibrium and consumer equilibrium. Okay, so of course, okay, if we have another point here, okay, if we even can draw another indifference curve, and of course this indifference curve give the highest level of satisfaction, but this point is not affordable, okay, because it is beyond the budget line. Okay, so that is on consumer equilibrium. So we look into comparative statics here. Okay, we have learned in part 1 where the price or income can change, yeah, in which it affect the consumer's budget set and level of satisfaction that can be achieved. Okay, so here, okay, when it affect the budget set and level of satisfaction, meaning that any changes in price and income will also lead to changes in consumer equilibrium. Okay, so this is what we are going to see next. All right, so first we look into what happened to the consumer equilibrium if there is any changes in price. Okay, when we say changes in price, of course it can be either increase or decrease. Okay, so we revisit again. Okay, again we talk about, right, what we have learned in chapter 2 and 3. Okay, when we talk about two goods, okay, because here when we talk about consumer equilibrium, we are talking about how the consumers combine between good X and good Y. Okay, so when we look into the relationship between good X and good Y, then we can determine whether the relationship is either substitutes or complement. Okay, remember what is substitutes good and what is complement good. Okay, so if we look into this first illustration, right? Where in this case good X and good Y are substitutes. Okay, let's say we have this budget line and we have this indifference curve. Okay, so what happened if, okay, let's say, okay, this is our let's say bundle A, and at bundle A this consumer have Y0, okay, and X0. Remember, X and Y is the quantity of that good. Okay, so let's say that point A just now is initial consumer equilibrium, right? And what happened if the price of good X decrease? Okay, we have looked, okay, in part 1, if price of good X decrease, okay, here when the price of good X falls, means that good X becomes cheaper, right? And should be we can consume more of good X, right? So remember what happened, our what do you call it, budget line will rotate to the right, rotate, you see here, okay, at this vertical point, okay, it does not change because price of good Y remain the same. Okay, but this one we can have more X. Okay, meaning if we have the money, we spend everything on good X, then we can have more X. Okay, so what happened to the consumer equilibrium? Okay, we can see that the new one, okay, it also shift, when the price change, the equilibrium of the consumer also change from A to B. So you can see here that at point B, all right, our Y, okay, from Y0 drop to Y1, okay, and X, okay, increase from X0 to X1. Yeah, so this is what happened, okay, at point B, the new consumer equilibrium. Yeah, so since Y0, okay, this is basically to show when price of good X decreases, okay, then good X becomes cheaper, right? So what happened is consumer will buy good X instead of good Y. Okay, so that's why you can see here X increases, Y decreases as price of X cheaper. Okay, so this is basically show that good X and Y are substitutes. Right, so you can tell actually from the graph whether X and Y are substitutes or complementary by looking at the effect on the consumer equilibrium after the price change. Okay, if we look into the second illustration, right, you can see here that initially the consumer is at point A, okay, at bundle A, where the quantity of Y is at here Y1, and this is the quantity of good X. Yeah, this is a combination Y1 and X1. Okay, so what happened here? All right. Okay, again the same thing where price of X decreases. Okay, so that's why we can see the rotation. Okay, and the new equilibrium here, okay, is at B, okay, bundle B. But the difference is that if we look at bundle B, Y, the new Y is more, okay, and the new X also is more. Okay, so what we can see here, when price of good X becomes cheaper, okay, quantity of X increases, okay, because that is the law of demand. As price drop, quantity increases, but the demand for Y also increases. Okay, so this tells us that X and Y are complementary. Yeah, okay, this is the explanation lah. Okay, point A initial, and then price X decreases, okay, and B is the new equilibrium. Yeah, so this shows that when price of X decreases and Y also increases, okay, then it shows that X and Y are complementary goods. Okay, so I hope you can see the differences between the first illustration just now, where good X and Y are substitutes. Okay, you can see the differences here. The previous one, Y goes down. This one, Y goes up. So you have to understand again what do we mean by substitute goods and what do we mean by complementary goods. Okay, that is for price. Okay, another one is income, where income also can change, right? And change mean that income can either increase or decrease. Okay, so here when we talk about income, remember we can determine whether good X is normal or inferior. I hope you still remember what's the difference between normal good and inferior goods. Okay, let us see to the illustration. This is our budget line, initial budget line, and this is our indifference curve. Okay, so point A is the initial consumer equilibrium. Okay, and we want to see what happens if there is increase in income. Yeah, so we have learned in part 1, when income increase, our budget line will shift to the right. Okay, so when the budget line shift to the right, actually our affordability increases, so we can have a different combination of good Y and good X. Okay, because we have more money. Okay, so we can purchase, of course, more of the goods. Okay, but if you look at point B, okay, B is the new equilibrium, okay, for the consumer. Okay, let me put here. Okay, if we can draw here, okay, the combination. Okay, this is our Y0, this is our X0, and when consumer equilibrium shift from point A to point B, okay, so you can see here that okay, this is the new Y, this is the new X. Okay, so both Y and X increases. Okay, so what does it mean? Okay, X and Y are both normal good. Yeah, because as income rises, the quantity demanded for this good rises. So it is the characteristic of normal goods. Okay, so this is if the if both goods are normal. Yeah. We look at the second illustration, okay, in which the same thing happened actually, right? Our income increases, so the budget line shift to the right, but the difference is that this one the initial, okay, and this one is the new consumer equilibrium, okay. Income increase, all right. B is the new consumer equilibrium, yeah. But if we look into the combination of bundle A and B, before income increases, okay, we use this much of X, okay, this much of Y. After income increases, more income, Y increases to Y1, okay, we see here the new bundle, okay, but X reduce or decrease to X1. Okay, so what does this tell us? Right, if income is more, the consumption for that product increases, meaning that this Y is normal good. Okay, but if here we have more income, okay, but the quantity drop, yeah, so this tell us that X is inferior. Okay, so that is what we mean by normal and inferior good. Yeah. Okay, so this is the second situation where we see that when income increases, but one product, the quantity demanded for that product increases, but another product, the consumption of that good decreases. Yeah, so it tells that X and Y, one is normal and another is inferior. Okay, this is the example of exercise, okay, where you don't have calculation, okay, but basically you have to understand the graph. Okay, so you are required to show if shoes and socks are complementary and normal good. Yeah, so how you can draw the graph, okay, to show what happened to the consumption of these two goods when price of shoes decrease, and another one is when income increases. Okay, so basically you can refer back to the previous graph that I have shown you. Okay, it's just that the y-axis and x-axis, instead of you put xy, okay, you put shoes, and also another one is socks. Yeah, it depends. Okay, if you want to make sock, okay, as y and shoes as x, is also possible. Okay, make sure that your y and x axis is the product. Yeah, that is basically consumer equilibrium. Okay, because if you as I said, I mentioned earlier on, okay, students sometimes confuse with market equilibrium. In market equilibrium, we have a price at the y-axis and quantity at the x-axis, right? And then we draw, this is supply curve, this is demand curve. Yeah, so this is market equilibrium. But in consumer equilibrium, the graph, okay, y and x should be the quantity of the good, and then this is not demand curve, this is budget line, okay, and you should draw the indifference curve, okay. So given this what you call it, situations, then you show, okay, whether you want to shift the budget line, whether you want to rotate, okay, and show the new bundle, okay, the new consumer equilibrium if the goods are complementary to each other and both are normal. Okay, actually I don't want to show you here because you can actually refer, okay, to the previous slides that I have explained earlier on. Okay, the next one, okay, this should be the last one actually for this part, is substitutions and income effect. Okay, so substitution and income effect is to show how the consumers are moving from one equilibrium to another when the price of good changes, okay, and that effect can be broken into two. One we call as substitution effect, another one is income effect. So substitution effect is movement along indifference curve, okay, because of the change in price and holding income constant, yeah, such as variables, meaning only price changes. Income effect is movement from one indifference curve to another. Okay, movement along is like this. Okay, just move along the curve. Yeah, if you said movement from one to another one, then it is actually a shift. Okay, so movement from one indifference curve to another that result from the change in real income. Okay, because of the price change. Okay, so let us see how we show this in the diagram. Okay, initially, right, okay, this consumer is at point A. This is the initial point where the budget line is this one, FG. Yeah, this is our indifference curve, and this is initial equilibrium. Okay, if let's say the price of good X increase, yeah, price of good X increase, PX increase. Remember what happened? Okay, we can okay, we will have less good actually, not more goods. Okay, we have less good because we hold our income constant, right? So the quantity of X that we can purchase with the existing income will be less. So how you want to show in the diagram, okay, our budget line will rotate to the left. Okay, so this is our new budget line, FX. Okay, so if you look at this dotted line, okay, before this dotted line, JI, okay, if you see this JI is parallel with FH, but this is actually what I want you to see here is the point B, okay, A, okay, move to point B, right? This is what we say as movement along the same indifference curve. And this is the indifference curve. Okay, so if we look at A to B, this is movement along the same indifference curve. If we are on the same indifference curve, remember the level of satisfaction is the same. So the movement from A to B, this is what we call as substitution effect, right? Okay, however, okay, okay, so that one is point B, all right. However, yeah, the consumer cannot be at point B. Yeah, why he or she cannot be at point B because the budget line have rotate to FH. Okay, B is possible only if the budget line is at this dotted line, JI. Okay, so if the income remain constant, okay, our assumption just now, the consumer cannot move from point A to point B, which is on the same indifference curve. Yeah, but what happened is the consumer will actually move, okay, from A to C. Alright, so you see C is on the new budget line FH, okay, and then of course this is on a different indifference curve 2, which is lower than indifference curve 1. So what does it mean here is when indifference curve is lower, the satisfaction level is lower, right? So this is what we call as income effect. Okay, income effect means the shift just now, remember? Okay, the movement from one indifference curve to another indifference curve. And in this case, because the price increases, okay, actually our real income, okay, decreases, okay, or sometimes we call as well as purchasing power. Okay, so you can see that at lower consumer equilibrium C here, we can consume lesser good, okay, and of course looking at the indifference curve here, it denotes lower level of satisfaction. Yeah, all right, so this is actually even though we see that this is the graph, right, but actually what is being illustrated here is something that happened, all right, again around us. Yeah, okay, this is okay, A go to C. Okay, this is income constant, right? Okay, so this is the total effect, yeah, as the whole. Yeah, when you move from point A to C, yeah, you cannot be at point B, it should be at point C here, right? So what actually is being illustrated is okay, I give you example here, all right, because most of you are single, right? Okay, so this is the estimation, okay, how much do a single individual need, okay, if he live in Klang Valley, right? So the estimation in 2019 is you need at least income this much, okay, 2,490, okay, ringgit Malaysia, and this is basically the spending, yeah, transport, utilities, okay, luckily you have saving, yeah, and all those things. And this is actually, this estimation, okay, this 2,000 plus estimation is not including insurance, phone bill, you know, you have to pay back your loan, okay, and also of course when you're working you should give some to your parents, yeah. So this is actually at a very minimum, yeah, because for example like housing 300, yeah, okay, can you get a rental of 300, yeah, so this is actually at the lower end. So what I'm trying to say here is, okay, what happen if the price increases, okay, so it means that of course, okay, this income is not enough anymore. Okay, let's say that we assume, okay, this is correct and this income is enough to have all this budget, okay, but if the price increases, okay, of course this budget will need to be increased, okay. So what you can do actually to ensure that you can still what do you call it, enough, all right, your budget is still enough, okay, is what, yeah, you reduce your demand, right? For example, like before the food is 550, okay, because your income is still this much, then the food allocation, the budget for food maybe have to reduce, okay, instead of 550 you budget what, 300, okay? Or maybe transportation here, yeah, you see it is quite high, yeah, so that's why you don't buy, you know, after you graduate, don't directly buy cars which requires you to pay very high installment, yeah. So what we need to do basically, when our income stay the same and price increase, normally people will reduce the consumption, yeah. We have to reduce our allocation for item here, right? Okay, to make sure that we can still maintain our living. But actually when we reduce our consumption, in economics we say that our standard of living also decreases, yeah. So this is where in the graph just now, the consumer equilibrium moved from point A to point C, yeah. So this is what happened. So okay, or but, okay, instead of so, but, right, if you want to maintain, okay, on the same indifference curve, remember, if we maintain on the same indifference curve, okay, what does it mean here is, you want to maintain your standard of living, you want to maintain at the same level of satisfaction, because if you go to point C, the satisfaction level is lower. So if you want to uh, move only on the same indifference curve to maintain the satisfaction just now, which is at point B, okay, what you need to do, yeah? So what you need to do is actually increase your income, yeah, increase your income, right? So this is where the graph just now, okay, if I draw the graph just now, okay, this one rotate, and then this is the point A, right? And then the price increase, so you have to go to point C, but you can be on the same indifference curve, okay, if you can be at point B. And if you look at point B, okay, point B is on higher budget line, yeah. So in other words, if you don't want to reduce your consumption, you have to increase your income. All right, so this is where I show you here. Maybe people working part-time, maybe you become a part-time entrepreneur, okay, even though you have a full-time job, yeah. People go for part-time as freelance, okay, or you may involve in investment, yeah. So this is basically because to maintain the same level of satisfaction, the same standard of living, then you have to increase your income level if the price become more expensive, yeah. Yes, so this is just to show you, because the first one just now, okay, I showed the single adult, right? Estimation here is a bit different from the previous one, 2 4 something. This one is 2007, yeah, because just now is EPF, this one, this is from Belanjawanku Guide. This one is from EPF, and this one is estimation by a different party, iMoney. Okay, so this is the estimation of couple without child, this is couple with children. So you see, this is where, okay, the living wage, we call it, okay, for the citizen to have a proper standard of living, yeah. So that's why when most of the goods increase in its price, we can have lesser product. That's why we say standard of living decreases, okay. So this is where you have to, you know, think of getting more income by doing, you know, part-time jobs and whatever. Okay, so that's all for part 2. Okay, I hope you are clear about what have been explained. All right, so inshallah we are going to continue in part 3. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum.